One day you wake up and realize something unsettling. The life you're living, the schedule you follow, the goals you chase, the expectations you carry, was never truly chosen by you. It happened slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. At some point, you started following a path that seemed reasonable. Study hard, get a stable job, be responsible, be practical. Do what everyone says is the smart thing to do. And for a while, it even feels like progress. But then something strange begins to happen. You wake up in the morning already feeling tired. Your calendar is full, yet your mind feels empty. You're busy almost every day, but deep inside, something feels missing. Not dramatically wrong, just quietly misaligned. And one day a simple question appears in your mind. Is this really the life I want, or just the life I ended up with? A few years ago, a close friend of mine experienced exactly that moment. From the outside, his life looked perfect. A good job, a steady income, respect from colleagues, the kind of life many people would call successful. But one evening, after a long day at work, he said something that stayed with me. I feel like I'm living someone else's plan. He wasn't lazy, he wasn't ungrateful, and he certainly wasn't failing. The real problem was much deeper than that. He had built a life, but he had never designed it. And that realization is where everything began to change. Because the truth is, life is not just something we live. It is something we build. Every decision we make, every habit we repeat, every belief we accept, every direction we choose is like placing another brick in the structure of our lives. Over time, those bricks become something much larger: a career, a lifestyle, a sense of identity, and ultimately a life story. But here is the problem most people never notice. If you are not intentionally designing your life, someone else's expectations will design it for you. Family expectations, cultural pressure, social comparison, the quiet influence of what most people seem to be doing. And before you know it, years pass. You become productive but not fulfilled, responsible but not inspired, successful on paper but uncertain inside. The good news is this: it doesn't have to stay that way. You can redesign your life. You can rebuild it with intention, clarity, and self-mastery. You can learn how to create a life that reflects who you truly are, not just what the world expects you to be. That is exactly what we are going to explore today in this audiobook. Build a life on your own terms, the architecture of self-mastery. In the next hour, you will discover powerful ideas about personal responsibility, inner discipline, meaningful direction, and the quiet courage it takes to design a life that is genuinely yours. More importantly, you will hear real, relatable stories, moments where ordinary people made small shifts that slowly transformed the direction of their lives. Because the truth is, building a life you truly want rarely happens through one dramatic decision. It happens through a series of small, intentional choices repeated over time, and by the end of this video, you may begin to see your own life differently. Not as something fixed, but as something you are still capable of designing. So if you already know someone who feels stuck, uncertain, or quietly searching for a better direction, share this video with them. Sometimes the message that changes someone's life is simply the one they needed to hear at the right moment. Chapter 1. The invisible blueprint behind every life. Most people believe they are building their lives through a series of big decisions. Choosing a major in college, accepting a job offer, moving to a new city, starting a relationship. These moments feel important, almost like turning points where the direction of life suddenly changes. But the truth is far more subtle. Long before those visible decisions appear, the design of a life has already begun taking shape. Not through dramatic moments, but through quiet influences that operate in the background. Beliefs absorbed during childhood, expectations from family, habits formed during stressful years, and the unspoken definitions of success that surround us every day. In other words, most people begin constructing their lives long before they realize they are the architects. Imagine someone starting to build a house without ever seeing the blueprint. The walls go up one by one. The rooms appear slowly. Windows are installed, hallways connect spaces, and eventually the structure begins to resemble a finished home. But halfway through the process, the builder suddenly realizes something strange. They never decided what the house was supposed to look like. They simply kept adding pieces that seemed logical at the time. For many people, life unfolds in exactly this way. Each step seems reasonable when viewed individually. Study hard, find stable work, stay busy, earn more, be responsible. None of these steps are wrong. In fact, they are often wise. But when those steps accumulate without a deeper sense of direction, something unexpected happens. A person may build an impressive structure on the outside while feeling strangely disconnected from it on the inside. A friend of mine once described this experience in a way that perfectly captured the feeling. Her name was Melissa, and when we first met, she was already well established in her career. She worked at a respected company, managed a talented team, and had the kind of resume that many people would admire. One evening after work, we were sitting in a small cafe discussing long-term plans. The conversation moved casually from travel to career goals, and eventually someone asked a simple question. If you could redesign your life from scratch, what would you change? Melissa laughed at first, the way people often do when they hear a question that feels too big. But after a moment, she became quiet. Then she said something that surprised everyone at the table. I'm not sure I ever actually designed it in the first place. She explained that most of her major choices had been guided by what seemed sensible at the time. Her parents encouraged a practical career path. Her professors recommended a competitive industry. Her early successes pushed her toward promotions and greater responsibility. Each decision made sense on its own. Yet when she looked at the whole structure of her life, she realized something important. She had been responding to opportunities rather than designing a direction. That realization didn't mean her life was a mistake. It simply revealed something deeper about how lives are often built. Momentum is powerful. Once a path begins forming, it becomes easier to continue walking it than to pause and question where it leads. The next step always appears obvious, and the next step after that appears even more certain. Years pass this way. People become skilled, productive, and reliable. They meet expectations. They achieve milestones. But occasionally, a quiet moment interrupts the routine. A long drive, a quiet weekend, a conversation that asks a question no one normally asks. And suddenly, the structure of life becomes visible in a new way. That is the moment when the invisible blueprint reveals itself. A blueprint is not just a plan for what we do. It is shaped by the beliefs we carry about what matters. For some people, the blueprint says that success means security above everything else. Stability becomes the central pillar of every decision. For others, the blueprint quietly equates personal worth with productivity. The busier they become, the more valuable they feel. Another common blueprint is comparison. In a world constantly displaying other people's achievements, promotions, homes, accomplishments, milestones, it becomes easy to measure progress by someone else's timeline instead of one's own values. Then there is the blueprint shaped by fear. Fear of disappointing family, fear of financial instability, fear of making a mistake that cannot be undone. Fear rarely announces itself loudly. Instead, it gently steers decisions toward safer directions. Over time, those decisions accumulate into a life that looks stable but feels strangely confined. None of these forces are dramatic enough to feel like a defining moment. Yet together, they quietly influence thousands of small decisions. What career seems reasonable? What risks feel acceptable? What dreams appear unrealistic? Brick by brick, day by day, a structure forms. And because the process happens gradually, most people never notice the design taking shape. But the moment you begin to see the blueprint behind your life, something remarkable happens. You realize that the structure surrounding you is not permanent. Architects revise their designs all the time. A blueprint can evolve. Rooms can be expanded, walls can be removed, entirely new spaces can be imagined. The same principle applies to life. Recognizing the blueprint does not mean rejecting everything that already exists. Many parts of your current life may already align with who you truly are. The real power lies in awareness. When you become aware of the design guiding your decisions, you gain the ability to ask better questions. Which parts of my life were chosen intentionally? Which parts simply appeared because they were expected? Which habits support the person I want to become? And which habits quietly maintain a structure that no longer fits? These questions are not meant to create anxiety about the past. They are meant to open possibility for the future. Because once you understand that life is something built piece by piece, you also understand something liberating. The next piece is still yours to place, and sometimes a single conscious choice, made with clarity rather than momentum, can begin transforming the entire architecture of a life. In the next chapter, we will explore one of the most powerful forces that quietly shapes this architecture every single day: the habits and systems that guide our actions long before motivation ever appears. Chapter 2: The hidden power of habits and systems. If the blueprint shapes the design of a life, then habits are the builders who quietly construct it. Every day, thousands of small actions repeat themselves almost automatically. We wake up at certain times, check our phones, approach work in familiar ways, respond to stress with predictable reactions, and follow routines we rarely question. Individually, these actions seem insignificant, but over time, they accumulate with remarkable power. A life is rarely transformed by a single dramatic decision. More often, it is shaped by small behaviors repeated consistently, sometimes for years without much awareness. Consider the difference between someone who reads 10 pages a day and someone who never reads at all. On any given evening, the difference appears almost meaningless. 10 pages is a small commitment, something that takes perhaps 15 minutes. But after 1 year, that small habit becomes more than 3,000 pages of knowledge, ideas, and perspectives. After 5 years, it becomes an intellectual transformation. The same principle applies to every area of life: health, finances, relationships, creativity, and personal growth. Small habits are the hidden architecture of long-term outcomes. A story from one of my former co-workers illustrates this perfectly. His name was Marcus, and he was the type of person everyone described as naturally productive. He rarely seemed overwhelmed. He consistently finished important projects, and he somehow found time to pursue personal interests outside of work. At first glance, people assumed Marcus simply had exceptional discipline. But after working with him for several months, I noticed something interesting. His productivity wasn't driven by bursts of motivation. It came from the systems he had quietly built into his daily routine. Every morning, Marcus began his day the same way. Before opening email or checking messages, he spent 30 minutes working on his most important task. No notifications, no distractions, just focused attention. When I asked him about it one day, he shrugged and said something simple. "If I wait until I feel motivated, it rarely happens. So I built a routine where the important work happens before my brain has time to negotiate with itself." That sentence reveals something powerful about human behavior. Motivation is unreliable. Some days we feel inspired and energized. Other days we feel distracted, tired, or uncertain. If progress depends entirely on motivation, consistency becomes nearly impossible. Habits solve this problem. They remove the need for constant decision-making. Instead of asking yourself every day whether you should exercise, write, study, or focus on meaningful work, the habit simply activates automatically. In other words, habits transform effort into structure. But there is an even deeper idea beneath this principle. The most effective people rarely rely on habits alone. They design systems. A habit is a single, repeated behavior. A system is the environment and structure that makes that behavior easier to sustain. For example, someone who wants to read more might create a simple system, leaving a book on the nightstand instead of placing a phone there. Another person who wants to exercise regularly might schedule workouts at the same time every morning and prepare their workout clothes the night before. These adjustments seem small, almost trivial, yet they dramatically reduce friction. When an action becomes easy to begin, it becomes easier to repeat. And when repetition occurs consistently, progress becomes inevitable. Think about how many decisions the average person makes every day. What to eat, when to work, how to spend free time, whether to start a difficult task or postpone it. Each decision requires energy. Psychologists often describe this as decision fatigue, the gradual exhaustion that occurs when the brain must repeatedly choose between options. Systems reduce this burden. They eliminate unnecessary choices by creating a clear path for action. When Marcus started his most important task every morning before checking email, he wasn't relying on discipline each day. He had simply removed the decision. The system made the right action easier than the wrong one. Over time, this approach produces extraordinary results. People often admire the outcomes they see in others. The writer who finishes a book, the entrepreneur who builds a thriving company, the athlete who maintains exceptional fitness. What they rarely see are the quiet systems operating behind the scenes. Daily writing sessions, structured work routines, consistent training schedules, small behaviors repeated with quiet persistence. The truth is, excellence often looks dramatic from a distance, but up close it is usually built from ordinary habits practiced consistently. There is another important benefit to systems and habits that many people overlook. They protect progress during difficult periods. Life is unpredictable. There will always be moments when motivation disappears, when stress increases, or when circumstances become challenging. During those times, systems act as a stabilizing force. Even when energy is low, a well-designed habit can continue moving life forward. A writer who commits to writing 200 words a day may not produce brilliant work every session, but the habit keeps the creative process alive. A person who walks for 20 minutes every evening may not transform their health overnight, but the routine preserves momentum. Progress continues quietly, even during imperfect days. This is why habits are far more powerful than occasional bursts of motivation. Motivation creates sparks. Systems sustain the fire. When someone begins designing their life intentionally, one of the first questions they must ask is not, "What big goal should I pursue?" A better question is much simpler. What daily behaviors will slowly move my life in the direction I want? Because the direction of a life rarely changes overnight. It changes through the quiet accumulation of small actions repeated over time. And once those actions become habits supported by thoughtful systems, progress becomes far more predictable. In the next chapter, we will explore another essential element of life architecture, the role of clarity. Because before habits can build the right structure, we must understand what kind of life we are actually trying to create. Chapter 3. The power of clarity. Knowing what you are actually building. Imagine arriving at a construction site where workers are busy all day. They carry materials, assemble structures, and follow instructions with impressive energy. The place is full of movement, noise, and visible effort. But when you ask what they are building, no one seems to know. Some believe it will become an office building. Others assume it is a residential complex. A few think it might eventually become a hotel. The workers are active, but the direction is unclear. In many ways, this is how people approach their lives. They work hard, they stay busy, they chase opportunities and respond to responsibilities. From the outside, everything appears productive. Yet deep down, a simple question often remains unanswered. What exactly am I trying to build? Clarity is one of the most powerful forces in life architecture, yet it is surprisingly rare. Many people move through years of effort without ever pausing long enough to define what a meaningful life actually looks like to them. Instead, they inherit vague ideas about success. Success means earning more money. Success means gaining status. Success means staying busy and productive. But these definitions are often borrowed rather than chosen. Without clarity, it becomes easy to pursue goals that look impressive from the outside but feel strangely empty from within. A former neighbor of mine named Alex once shared a story that perfectly illustrated this problem. Alex had spent nearly 15 years building his career in finance. By most conventional standards, he was doing extremely well. His income was strong, his professional reputation was growing, and he had opportunities that many people would envy. Yet one evening, while we were talking about work, he said something unexpected. "I feel like I'm constantly climbing a ladder, but I'm not sure it's leaning against the right wall." That sentence captured a truth many people quietly feel but rarely express. Effort without clarity can lead to impressive progress in the wrong direction. Alex explained that his career had unfolded step by step, much like many others. Each promotion seemed like the natural next move. Each new responsibility appeared to confirm that he was on the right path. But one weekend, while helping a friend move into a small countryside house, something shifted in his thinking. The friend had recently left a demanding corporate job to start a modest woodworking business. The workshop was simple, just a small building filled with tools, wood, and half-finished furniture. What struck Alex wasn't the business itself. It was the atmosphere. His friend worked slowly, carefully shaping each piece of wood. There was a quiet sense of purpose in the room, a feeling that the work itself mattered. At one point, Alex asked him if he ever regretted leaving his previous career. His friend smiled and said, "I used to make more money, but now I actually recognize the life I'm building." That moment stayed with Alex long after the weekend ended. For the first time in years, he began asking himself deeper questions about direction, not just progress. What kind of days do I want to experience regularly? What type of work makes me feel engaged rather than simply productive? What relationships do I want my life to prioritize? What values should guide my decisions? These questions did not produce immediate answers. Clarity rarely arrives all at once. Instead, it develops gradually through reflection. Many people avoid these questions because they feel uncomfortable. They challenge assumptions and sometimes reveal that parts of our lives are guided more by momentum than by intention. But without clarity, even the most disciplined habits can move us toward goals that do not truly matter. Think about how easy it is to become efficient at the wrong things. Someone can master time management, productivity techniques, and professional skills while still feeling a quiet sense of dissatisfaction. Why? Because efficiency without direction simply accelerates the journey toward an uncertain destination. Clarity changes that. When a person becomes clear about what truly matters to them, decisions become easier. Opportunities can be evaluated more honestly. Certain paths begin to feel more aligned while others lose their appeal. Clarity does not eliminate challenges, but it transforms how those challenges are experienced. Instead of feeling like endless obligations, effort begins to feel like meaningful investment. Of course, clarity does not mean designing every detail of the future. Life remains unpredictable, and unexpected opportunities often lead to the most meaningful experiences. What clarity provides is not a rigid plan, but a guiding direction. It answers a simple but powerful question. What kind of life would feel meaningful to build? For some people, the answer emphasizes creativity and personal expression. For others, it centers on family, community, or service. Some people seek adventure and exploration. Others value stability, craftsmanship, or intellectual growth. None of these directions are inherently better than the others. What matters is that the direction is chosen consciously rather than inherited unconsciously. When clarity begins to take shape, something remarkable happens. Energy becomes more focused. Habits begin supporting the right goals instead of random ones. Decisions feel less overwhelming because they are measured against a clear set of values. Even setbacks become easier to navigate because they are understood as part of a meaningful journey rather than meaningless struggle. Life starts to feel less like a series of disconnected tasks and more like a coherent project slowly unfolding. The architecture of a meaningful life requires many elements: awareness, habits, discipline, courage, and patience. But none of these elements can function properly without clarity. Because before we can build well, we must first understand what we are trying to build. And once that vision becomes clearer, even small daily actions begin to carry a deeper sense of purpose. In the next chapter, we will explore the role of personal responsibility, the moment when someone stops waiting for circumstances to change and begins actively shaping the direction of their own life. Chapter 4. The Turning Point. Taking responsibility for the life you build. At some point in every meaningful life journey, there is a quiet but powerful turning point. It does not arrive with dramatic music or a clear announcement. It often appears in a simple realization, almost like a whisper in the mind. This life is my responsibility. For many people, this realization takes years to fully accept. It is far easier to believe that circumstances, luck, or other people determine the direction of life. After all, there are many factors we truly cannot control. We cannot control where we are born, the economic conditions we encounter, or the unexpected challenges that appear along the way. But there is another truth that quietly exists alongside those limitations. We may not control every event in our lives, but we do influence the meaning we give those events and the choices we make afterward. Personal responsibility begins at that moment. It begins when someone stops waiting for life to become easier and starts asking a different question. What can I do with the situation I have? A former colleague named Robert once shared a story that perfectly captured this shift in thinking. Robert had spent years feeling frustrated with his career. He believed his manager underestimated his abilities, that the company culture limited his growth, and that opportunities were always given to someone else. Whenever we talked about work, the conversation eventually returned to the same conclusion. The system was unfair. And in many ways, some of his complaints were valid. But one evening after attending a leadership workshop, Robert returned to the office with a noticeably different perspective. Instead of talking about what the company was doing wrong, he said something unexpected. I realized I've been acting like a passenger in my own career. That sentence marked the beginning of a significant change. Robert explained that during the workshop, the speaker had introduced a simple idea. People often divide the world into two categories: things they cannot control and things they can. Most of us spend an enormous amount of energy focusing on the first category. We think about unfair managers, difficult co-workers, economic uncertainty, or missed opportunities. While these frustrations may be real, dwelling on them rarely improves our situation. The speaker suggested a different approach. Shift attention toward the second category: actions within our influence, skills we can develop, habits we can improve, conversations we can initiate, opportunities we can create. Robert decided to experiment with this mindset. Instead of waiting for recognition, he began volunteering for projects that allowed him to learn new skills. Instead of complaining about communication problems, he started scheduling brief check-ins with colleagues to clarify expectations. None of these changes were dramatic. Yet over time, something surprising happened. His confidence increased, his reputation improved, and within a year he was offered a role in a different department where his abilities were far more visible. But the most important transformation was internal. Robert no longer felt like a passenger, he felt like a participant. This shift from passive reaction to active responsibility is one of the most powerful transitions a person can make. It changes how we interpret challenges. When someone believes their life is entirely controlled by external forces, obstacles feel like proof that progress is impossible. Each difficulty reinforces the idea that the system is unfair or that success belongs only to the lucky. But when someone accepts personal responsibility, obstacles begin to look different. They become problems to solve rather than excuses to surrender. This does not mean blaming ourselves for every difficulty we encounter. Life will always contain elements beyond our control. Responsibility simply means recognizing that our response still matters. Consider two people who experience the same setback, perhaps losing a job or facing a failed project. One person may interpret the event as confirmation that life is working against them. They withdraw, become discouraged, and wait for circumstances to improve. The other person may experience the same disappointment but ask a different question. What can I learn from this, and what step can I take next? The external event is identical. The internal response changes everything. Over time, these responses accumulate into dramatically different life trajectories. Personal responsibility also strengthens a sense of agency. Agency is the belief that our actions influence outcomes. When people feel powerless, they hesitate to take initiative because they assume their efforts will not matter. But when individuals see themselves as active builders of their lives, even small actions gain significance. A new skill learned, a difficult conversation initiated, a creative idea pursued. Each step becomes a way of shaping the structure of life rather than simply reacting to it. Of course, accepting responsibility can feel uncomfortable at first. It removes the comforting illusion that someone else will eventually fix our situation. It requires honesty about habits that may be holding us back and decisions that need to change. But it also offers something far more valuable: freedom. When you recognize that your life is something you are actively building, the future stops feeling predetermined. Possibilities expand because your actions become part of the design. You are no longer simply living inside the structure that already exists. You are participating in its evolution. Every conversation, habit, and decision becomes a small act of construction. And while the results may not appear immediately, the direction begins to shift. The architecture of a meaningful life requires many elements: awareness, habits, clarity, and discipline. But none of them can function without responsibility. Because until someone accepts that their life is their own project to build, meaningful change remains unlikely. Responsibility is the moment the blueprint becomes personal. In the next chapter, we will explore another essential element of life architecture: the courage to move beyond comfort and step into uncertainty, where growth and transformation truly begin. Chapter 5. The courage to step beyond comfort. Once a person begins to take responsibility for the direction of their life, another challenge quickly appears: comfort. Comfort is one of the most powerful forces shaping human behavior. It quietly encourages us to stay within familiar routines, predictable environments, and safe decisions. In many ways, comfort is not the enemy. It provides stability, rest, and a sense of security. But comfort can also become a quiet barrier to growth. A life designed intentionally will eventually require stepping beyond what feels safe or familiar. New directions often involve uncertainty, temporary discomfort, and the possibility of failure. This is why courage becomes such an essential part of building a meaningful life. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. Most people imagine courage as something dramatic: climbing mountains, making enormous career changes, or taking bold public risks. In reality, courage often appears in much smaller moments. Speaking honestly in a difficult conversation, starting a project that might not succeed, pursuing an interest that others may not understand. These actions may seem ordinary, yet they represent the quiet willingness to leave the boundaries of comfort. A story about my former neighbor, James, illustrates this idea in a simple but powerful way. James worked for nearly 20 years as an accountant at a stable firm. His job provided reliable income, predictable hours, and a routine that rarely changed. From the outside, everything about his life seemed secure. But every weekend, something interesting happened. James spent hours in his garage restoring old bicycles. It began as a simple hobby, cleaning frames, replacing parts, painting metal surfaces, until worn-out bikes looked brand new. Over time, friends and neighbors began asking if he could repair their bicycles too. Eventually, he started buying damaged bikes from local markets, restoring them and selling them for a small profit. One afternoon while we were talking, I asked him whether he had ever considered turning the hobby into something larger. He laughed immediately. "Oh no," he said, "this is just something I enjoy." But a year later, something unexpected happened. His company announced a restructuring that reduced several positions, including his. For the first time in decades, James found himself standing at a crossroads. Many people would have searched immediately for another similar job. Instead, James paused. He remembered the small satisfaction he felt each time a bicycle rolled smoothly again after hours of careful work. He remembered the excitement of transforming something neglected into something useful and beautiful. For weeks, he debated what to do. Starting a small bicycle repair shop felt risky. It would involve uncertainty, lower income at the beginning, and the possibility that the idea might fail. But one evening, he said something that revealed the shift in his thinking. "I realized I've spent 20 years choosing security. Maybe it's time to choose curiosity." That decision did not magically remove fear. Opening the shop required learning new skills, managing finances, and accepting that success was not guaranteed. The first months were difficult. Customers were few, and the workload was unpredictable. Yet something else began to appear: energy. James spoke about his work differently now. Instead of describing tasks he had to complete, he talked about projects he wanted to improve. Instead of counting hours until the end of the day, he found himself experimenting with better techniques and new designs. The work demanded more courage than his previous routine, but it also brought a deeper sense of engagement. Stories like James reveal an important truth about comfort. Comfort zones often expand slowly, not through dramatic leaps, but through repeated steps into unfamiliar territory. A conversation that once felt intimidating becomes easier the second time. A creative project that seemed risky begins to feel natural after consistent effort. A new career path that once appeared uncertain gradually transforms into expertise. Courage is the bridge between the life someone currently has and the life they might be capable of building. Without that bridge, even the clearest vision remains an idea rather than a reality. Of course, stepping beyond comfort does not mean abandoning all stability or making reckless decisions. Thoughtful risk is very different from impulsive change. Courage simply means allowing curiosity and purpose to influence decisions alongside safety. Sometimes the courageous step is large, like starting a business or moving to a new city. More often, it is smaller. Learning a new skill after years of routine. Introducing yourself to people who inspire you. Sharing an idea that might be rejected. Each action gradually expands what feels possible. Over time, this process changes how people see themselves. Instead of identifying as someone who avoids uncertainty, they begin to see themselves as someone capable of navigating it. That shift in identity is powerful. Because when people trust their ability to adapt, fear loses much of its control. The unknown stops feeling like a threat and starts looking like a landscape of opportunity. Building a meaningful life requires awareness, clarity, responsibility, and habits. But those elements alone are not enough. Eventually, there will always be a moment where someone must choose between remaining comfortable and moving toward growth. And the direction chosen in that moment can quietly reshape the entire architecture of a life. In the next chapter, we will explore another essential element of life architecture: how discipline and consistency transform courage and intention into lasting results over time. Chapter 6. Discipline. Turning intention into reality. Courage may open the door to change, but discipline is what allows someone to walk through it consistently. Many people experience moments of inspiration. They read a powerful idea, hear a meaningful story, or suddenly realize that their life could move in a better direction. For a short time, motivation feels strong. Plans are made, goals are written down, and a new beginning seems possible. But inspiration alone rarely transforms a life. The real challenge begins after the excitement fades. This is where discipline quietly becomes one of the most important elements in the architecture of self-mastery. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many people imagine it as a harsh form of self-control, something rigid and exhausting that requires constant struggle. In reality, healthy discipline is something far more sustainable. It is the ability to follow through on meaningful commitments, even when motivation is absent. Discipline does not demand perfection. It simply asks for consistency. A musician practices scales even on days when inspiration feels distant. A writer sits down to write when the words feel slow. An athlete trains through routines that may feel repetitive. Over time, these consistent actions create extraordinary results. A friend of mine named Laura once demonstrated this principle in a way that was both simple and inspiring. Laura had always loved the idea of writing, but for years she never considered herself a real writer. Like many people, she believed that writing required large blocks of uninterrupted time and sudden bursts of creativity. Because of this belief, she rarely began. One evening, during a conversation about goals, she mentioned a small experiment she wanted to try. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment to write, she decided to write just 300 words every morning before work. 300 words was not a dramatic commitment. It could be written in 15 or 20 minutes, but the rule was simple. The habit had to happen every day. At first, the writing sessions felt awkward. Some mornings the words flowed easily, while other mornings she stared at the screen wondering what to say next. Yet she continued. Day after day, 300 words. After a few months, something surprising happened. She had written tens of thousands of words. More importantly, the act of writing had become part of her identity. She no longer thought of herself as someone who wanted to write. She had become someone who simply did it. A year later, Laura finished her first full manuscript. When people asked how she managed to complete such a large project while working a full-time job, her answer was always the same. "I didn't try to write a book," she would say. "I just tried to write today's pages." That mindset captures the essence of discipline. Discipline focuses on the present action rather than the distant result. Many people feel overwhelmed by large ambitions. Writing a book, building a business, improving health, or learning a new skill can all seem intimidating when viewed as enormous goals. But when those goals are broken into small, repeatable actions, they become manageable. One workout, one page, one conversation, one improvement. Each action may appear small in isolation, yet their cumulative effect can be remarkable. This principle is closely connected to the idea we explored earlier about habits and systems. Habits create the structure for repeated behavior, but discipline provides the commitment to maintain that structure even when conditions are not ideal. There will always be days when energy is low or circumstances are inconvenient. Discipline allows progress to continue during those moments. Over time, discipline produces another valuable outcome: self-trust. When people repeatedly follow through on promises they make to themselves, they begin to trust their own reliability. That trust strengthens confidence in subtle but powerful ways. A person who has practiced consistent discipline begins to think differently. They no longer wonder whether they are capable of improvement. They have evidence from their own experience. They know that effort, repeated long enough, produces results. This kind of confidence is very different from empty optimism. It is grounded in action. Of course, discipline does not mean pushing endlessly without rest. Sustainable discipline includes recovery, reflection, and balance. Even the most dedicated athletes schedule rest days to allow the body to recover and grow stronger. Creators often step away from their work periodically to gain new perspective. The goal is not relentless intensity. The goal is steady forward movement. Imagine building a large structure brick by brick. The builder does not rush to place hundreds of bricks in a single day, only to abandon the project the following week. Instead, the builder returns consistently, placing bricks with patience and care. After months and years of steady effort, the structure becomes visible. Discipline works the same way in life. It transforms good intentions into visible progress. It protects momentum during difficult periods, and perhaps most importantly, it strengthens the belief that a meaningful life is not something reserved for a lucky few. It is something that can be constructed through consistent action. When clarity defines the direction, responsibility accepts ownership, courage expands possibility, and habits create structure, discipline becomes the force that holds everything together. It ensures that the architecture of a life is not merely imagined, but steadily built. In the next chapter, we will explore another essential element of life architecture: how the people and environments around us quietly influence the direction we move and the person we ultimately become. Chapter 7. The Influence of Environment. Designing the space around your life. When people think about changing their lives, they often focus on internal qualities: motivation, discipline, willpower, or mindset. These qualities certainly matter, but there is another powerful force shaping our behavior that is often overlooked: our environment. The spaces we live in, the people we spend time with, and the systems surrounding our daily routines quietly influence the direction of our lives. In many cases, environment shapes behavior even more strongly than intention. Think about how differently you behave depending on where you are. In a quiet library, people naturally lower their voices and focus on reading. In a gym, the atmosphere encourages movement and physical effort. In a crowded cafe filled with conversation and music, people often become more social and relaxed. The same person behaves differently simply because the environment changes. This principle applies to nearly every aspect of life. Someone who wants to read more but spends every evening surrounded by screens may struggle to build that habit. A person who hopes to become healthier while living in a space filled with constant distractions may find it difficult to stay consistent. But when the environment begins supporting the desired behavior, change becomes much easier. A story about a friend named Daniel illustrates this idea clearly. Daniel had always wanted to improve his physical health. He understood the importance of exercise. He had read articles about nutrition, and he often told himself that he would start a consistent workout routine soon. Yet months passed without much progress. One evening, while talking about this frustration, he realized something interesting. The gym he had joined was located across the city. Getting there required driving through heavy traffic, finding parking, and waiting for equipment to become available. Each visit felt like a complicated task. Eventually, Daniel made a simple decision. He canceled the distant gym membership and bought a few pieces of basic exercise equipment for his apartment: a pair of adjustable dumbbells, a yoga mat, and a pull-up bar installed in a doorway. The change seemed small, but something unexpected happened. Suddenly, the barrier between intention and action disappeared. Instead of planning an entire trip to exercise, he could simply walk a few steps into his living room and begin. Within weeks, his workouts became consistent. The difference was not motivation, it was environment. The same principle influences far more than exercise. Consider the role of the people surrounding us. Human beings are deeply social creatures. We absorb attitudes, habits, and expectations from those around us, often without realizing it. If someone spends most of their time with individuals who constantly complain about work, avoid challenges, and treat growth as unnecessary, those attitudes can quietly become normal. On the other hand, spending time with people who pursue meaningful goals, share ideas, and encourage curiosity can expand a person's sense of possibility. This does not mean abandoning old friendships or judging others harshly. Instead, it means becoming aware of the influence that social environments have on personal direction. Even small changes in social circles can create powerful shifts in thinking. Attending a discussion group, joining a creative community, or simply having regular conversations with people who care about growth can introduce new perspectives that reshape how we see our own potential. Physical spaces matter as well. A cluttered workspace often creates mental distraction. A calm, organized environment can encourage focus. A room filled with creative tools invites experimentation, while a space dominated by passive entertainment encourages consumption rather than creation. These influences operate quietly, yet their cumulative effect can be enormous. Imagine someone who wants to write regularly, but keeps their workspace buried under unrelated materials. Each time they sit down to begin, they must first clear space, find their notes, and gather what they need. These small obstacles may seem insignificant, yet they create friction. Over time, friction discourages action. Now imagine a different setup. A small desk reserved only for writing, a notebook waiting in the same place every day, and a quiet corner that signals to the brain that creative work begins here. The difference between these two environments can determine whether the writing habit thrives or disappears. Designing an environment intentionally does not require expensive equipment or dramatic lifestyle changes. Often it begins with simple adjustments. Placing a book where you would normally leave your phone. Arranging a workspace that invites concentration. Choosing to spend more time with people whose values align with the life you want to build. Each change reduces resistance between intention and action. Over time, these supportive environments become silent partners in personal growth. Instead of relying entirely on willpower, the environment begins guiding behavior in helpful directions. This is one of the most overlooked strategies in the architecture of self-mastery. Rather than constantly forcing ourselves to act differently, we can design surroundings that naturally encourage the behaviors we want to practice. When environment, habits, discipline, and clarity begin working together, progress becomes far more sustainable. The builder of a meaningful life does not rely on inspiration alone. They also shape the conditions in which their life unfolds. Because the spaces we occupy and the people we engage with are not neutral forces. They are powerful influences, quietly shaping our direction every single day. In the final chapter, we will explore how all of these elements come together into a single guiding principle: the ongoing process of designing and redesigning a life that truly reflects who we are and who we hope to become. Chapter 8. Designing a life that continues to evolve. If you step back and look at everything we have explored so far, a pattern begins to appear. A meaningful life is not discovered all at once. It is constructed gradually through awareness, clarity, responsibility, courage, discipline, habits, and the environments we choose to live within. Each of these elements acts like a structural component in the architecture of a life. But there is one final truth that holds them all together. Life is not a building that is completed once and then left unchanged. It is an evolving design. Many people begin their lives searching for a single perfect path, believing that if they make the right choices early enough, everything else will fall neatly into place. But real life rarely follows such a fixed design. People grow, values change, interests expand, circumstances shift in unexpected ways. The version of success that felt meaningful at 25 may feel incomplete at 40. The dreams that once seemed impossible may slowly become realistic. This constant movement is not a problem. It is a natural part of being human. A thoughtful architect does not assume the first blueprint will remain perfect forever. As new needs emerge, the design is adjusted. Rooms are expanded. New spaces are created. Some areas are redesigned entirely. A meaningful life works the same way. The goal is not to create a rigid structure that never changes. The goal is to build a flexible foundation that can adapt as your understanding of yourself deepens. A former mentor of mine once explained this idea through a story from his own life. In his early 20s, he believed his future would revolve entirely around business. He pursued entrepreneurship with intense focus, working long hours and constantly chasing new opportunities. For many years, the effort paid off. His companies grew, his professional reputation expanded, and he achieved many of the goals he had set for himself. Yet as time passed, something unexpected happened. The achievements that once felt exciting began to feel routine. The work remained successful, but it no longer provided the same sense of purpose. Instead of ignoring this feeling, he decided to explore it. He began volunteering with a local education program, helping young students develop problem-solving skills and creative thinking. At first, it was simply a way to contribute something meaningful outside of his business life. But gradually, he noticed a powerful shift. The hours he spent teaching felt deeply engaging. Watching young people develop confidence and curiosity brought a sense of fulfillment he had not experienced in years. Eventually, he made a decision that surprised many people around him. He stepped back from several business responsibilities and began dedicating more of his time to educational projects and mentorship. When someone once asked him why he made that change after building such a successful career, he answered with a perspective that stayed with me. "I didn't abandon my old life," he said. "I expanded it. I just realized the design needed another room." That phrase perfectly captures the spirit of life architecture. Growth does not always require destroying what already exists. Often it means adding new dimensions that reflect the person you are becoming. When people understand this principle, they stop fearing change quite as much. They realize that evolving goals do not mean previous efforts were wasted. Every experience contributes something valuable to the structure of a life. Skills developed in one chapter often become tools for the next. Relationships formed in one stage may support opportunities later. Even mistakes provide insight that strengthens future decisions. The architecture of self-mastery is not about achieving a final, perfect version of life. It is about learning how to continually redesign it with greater awareness. This mindset transforms how we approach the future. Instead of asking, "What is the one path I must follow forever?" we begin asking more flexible questions. What direction feels meaningful right now? What skills or experiences might expand my understanding of life? What relationships and environments encourage the person I want to become? These questions create a sense of forward movement without demanding rigid certainty. And perhaps most importantly, they encourage curiosity. Curiosity keeps life dynamic. A curious person continues learning long after formal education ends. They explore new interests, engage with different perspectives, and remain open to unexpected opportunities. Curiosity also protects against one of the greatest risks of success: stagnation. When people become too comfortable in a single identity or routine, growth slows. Curiosity reminds us that life always contains more possibilities to explore. Of course, embracing an evolving life design does not eliminate uncertainty. There will still be moments of doubt, difficult decisions, and periods where the path forward is not entirely clear. But when someone understands the principles of life architecture, those moments become easier to navigate. They know how to pause, reflect, and adjust the design. They know how to rebuild habits that support new goals. They know how to reshape their environment to encourage new directions. Most importantly, they trust their ability to continue constructing a meaningful life over time. Because the power to design a life on your own terms does not come from finding perfect answers. It comes from developing the awareness and courage to keep refining the blueprint as you grow. Every day offers another opportunity to place a new brick in the structure you are building. Every decision, habit, and relationship adds shape to that structure. And while the final form of the building may never be fully complete, the process of designing it can become one of the most meaningful projects a person will ever undertake. If you've stayed with this audiobook until this moment, you've already taken a powerful step. Most people never pause long enough to question the direction of their lives. They move through their days reacting to expectations, responsibilities, and pressures without ever asking a simple but life-changing question: is this the life I truly want to build? Throughout this journey, we explored the idea that life is not something that simply happens to you. Life is something you design. Just like an architect carefully plans a building before laying the first brick, you have the ability to design the structure of your life with intention. We began by recognizing that many people are living inside invisible blueprints they never consciously chose. Beliefs inherited from society, family expectations, or fear of stepping outside the familiar. The first step toward self-mastery is awareness. When you become aware of those hidden structures, you finally gain the power to redesign them. Then we talked about clarity. Without clarity, life feels like wandering through a fog. But when you define what truly matters to you, your values, your priorities, and your vision, you create a compass that guides every decision you make. Clarity simplifies life in a powerful way. Instead of trying to chase everything, you begin to focus on what actually matters. We also explored the importance of discipline and small daily actions. Grand dreams are inspiring, but they only become reality through consistent habits. The architecture of a meaningful life isn't built in dramatic moments. It's built in quiet, repeated actions. The mornings when you choose growth over comfort. The evenings when you invest in learning instead of distraction. Another important lesson was courage. Living life on your own terms does not mean everything will be easy. In fact, it often requires stepping away from expectations that no longer serve you. But courage grows stronger every time you choose authenticity over approval. And perhaps most importantly, we discussed alignment, making sure that the way you spend your time reflects the person you truly want to become. When your actions, values, and goals align, life begins to feel less like a struggle and more like a meaningful journey. But here is the truth. Listening to an audiobook can inspire you, but inspiration alone will not transform your life. Real change happens when ideas turn into action. So here is a simple invitation. Take a moment today, just 10 minutes, to reflect on one area of your life that feels out of alignment. Maybe it's your career, your habits, your health, or the way you spend your time. Ask yourself one honest question. If I were designing my life from scratch, what would I change first? You don't need to redesign everything overnight. In fact, the most powerful transformations usually begin with a single small shift. Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes earlier to invest in yourself. Maybe it's setting a clear boundary that protects your time. Maybe it's finally starting the project you've been postponing for years. One decision, one small change, one new brick in the architecture of your life. And if this message resonated with you, if you felt something shift inside while listening, consider sharing this video with someone in your life who might need to hear it today. Sometimes, A single idea, arriving at the right moment, can change the direction of someone's entire future. Thank you for spending this time with me and investing in your personal growth. If you enjoyed this audiobook and want more deep insights about mindset, self-mastery, and building a meaningful life, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next journey. Until the next video, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep building a life that truly belongs to you.